Simon Hickson was popular, well-connected, mad on cycling and apparently successful in business. But then things began to go wrong. Dover on the southeast coast of England. From here, it's a 90-minute ferry ride across the Channel to France. On April the 9th, 2009, 42-year-old businessman Simon Hickson was spotted with his racing bike travelling to Calais. He told his family he'd be back the next day, but he got off the boat in France and has never been seen again. 2 years on, his parents are still struggling to find out what happened.
It's the not knowing. It's the not knowing that's so horrible, really. And it's so difficult to get your head round Simon knowing that he hasn't contacted us. It's just so weird. It's a bit strange sitting here and looking out at the ferries and thinking that he'd been down there. A bit odd. Sorry.
Simon grew up in Surrey with his sisters Sarah and Annie. He was the middle of the three and always surrounded by friends.
So this was his 40th, wasn't it?
His 40th party, yeah. In some ways, I was almost quite envious of this huge, you know...
Seemingly big network of friends and social work. And always threw himself 150% into whatever it was that he was doing. You know, whether that was work, whether that was social life, particularly, you know, was always there to help his friends and would always be the first to kind of drive round, pick somebody up, sort something out, the middle of the night, the weekends. You know, he was always doing something.
The girls love him, the guys love him, my parents love him. Everyone who meets Simon thinks he's a top chap. Everything about him is what you would want from a mate. Easygoing, no agenda, and just a great person to have around.
Simon's big passion was cycling. Sometimes he clocked up over 100 miles a day, and his holidays were spent biking around France and Italy.
His cycling was awesome, the amount he would cycle and the distances. He was a very fit, able young lad, even though he was quite petite.
Simon was also hugely competitive at work and appeared to be the successful businessman, at one time running 3 companies.
Simon is one of the hardest working people I've ever known. Weekends, late nights, early mornings, you name it, work was very important to him.
On April the 9th, 2009, as usual, Simon left the flat he shared with his girlfriend in Surbiton and cycled a couple of miles to their business in Kingston. His girlfriend was due to meet him there later, but when she arrived, there was no sign of Simon, just a letter.
He turned up at the warehouse and he wasn't there, and then found this note on the desk saying that he's got financial troubles and was going off to sort it out, but he would be back tomorrow.
The note set alarm bells ringing. 2 of Simon's businesses had failed and he was running up debts, but it sounded like he just needed time, so his family weren't too worried at first. 3 days later, Simon still hadn't come back.
As time goes on, well, other things go around in your mind, really. You're thinking, well, is he all right? And you have to keep thinking that he is.
Tina, I know it's tough watching those as well. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
What's clear from what we've seen in that film and what you've said about him is that this was pretty out of character for him to do anything like this, wasn't it?
Yes, I would say totally out of character, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd say so, yes.
I mean, he's certainly never had... Well, even with other problems that he's had, he's either come to us or we know about them. I mean, he's never, ever just run away from something.
Even if it was just discussing it, you know.
He's never run away from anything before.
And although he had, you now know, some financial difficulties, he'd not hinted at those to you? Or...
No, not at all, no. I mean, look, on reflection, if only.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that letter that he left as well, because Amanda, I know she read it to you and told you what was in it.
Right, yeah.
What were your thoughts when you heard what he'd written?
Well, it's the fact that he didn't turn up when he said he would. We thought, well, he's not... he couldn't possibly have sorted it out as quickly as that anyway.
Yes.
That went through my mind anyway.
Well, certainly not after we found out what the problem was were, or some of the problems. I mean, money problems in the business.
Yeah.
He couldn't have sorted it out overnight. So he obviously had some idea that he was going to just go.
And key to kind of all of this was the fact that he took his bicycle, which he was very, very fond of. And we've got a very similar one here, haven't we? But it's a different colour.
Yeah, it was bright red and bright yellow.
So bright red and bright yellow. And this, actually, we know they're worth several £1,000s,
yes.
bikes like this.
He was besotted with bikes. Yes. Everything was bikes, bikes, bikes.
And as we say, it's very distinctive, and we do know that Simon took the bike with him that day. On the 9th of April 2009, Simon Hickson left a dramatic note revealing he had serious financial problems. He wrote that he needed 24 hours to sort everything out. But Friday went by, then Saturday, and there was still no sign of him. On the Sunday, his family made the inevitable call.
And I thought, well, it sounds stupid going to the police, really. I mean, he's a grown man. Why would we go to the police? But we did, and they actually took it very seriously, really.
Straight away, the police began searching for Simon.
We started off in the immediate area around where he lives. We contacted family, friends, local members of the community just to see if Simon has been seen, if anybody knew where he was, if he'd just stayed out for the night, etc.
No one had heard from Simon, but the police did know he'd cycled to work, so they immediately widened their search.
Because Simon was a very keen sportsman, a triathlete, we've established that his bike was missing, and could he have cycled somewhere?
Then the police made a crucial discovery. Simon had booked a ticket on the 5:30 afternoon ferry to France the day he disappeared.
The police had got CCTV from Dover docks to identify Simon on this CCTV, that he had actually bought a single ticket and gone on the ferry over to Calais. And that's the last we heard.
Police interviewed staff on the ferry who distinctly remembered a man matching Simon's description. Simon had been spotted on the boat.
He wheeled the bike onto the ferry. Normally, you would have persons entering the ferry in a car, in a van, perhaps in a motorbike, but somebody wheeling a bike on very, very unusual, and that stood out for them. That's why we're utterly convinced that on the 9th of April 2009, Simon boarded that ferry and travelled from Dover to Calais.
But then police needed to rule out the awful possibility that Simon had jumped overboard. There was nothing to suggest that he had.
No members of the public saw anybody acting suspiciously. No members of the public saw a male matching Simon's description in a distressed state. No members of the public saw a male carrying a bike from the lower deck to the top deck. And if he had taken the bike upstairs with him so it could be thrown overboard, it would have been seen by a member of the public. That isn't the case.
While the police were now certain that Simon had arrived in Calais, a few days later, his family made another vital discovery.
What he did take with him were 2 watches. One we gave him as a 21st birthday present, a Cartier watch, and he also had bought himself another one. So 2 watches, his bike, which was worth a reasonable amount of money, I would think. I mean, I'm not very well up in prices, but probably £2,000 or £3,000.
Clearly, Simon had planned his trip away, but his family always believed he would return. As time went by, they became increasingly concerned that something may have happened to Simon. And Detective Inspector John Turner is here with us now. So you know that he got onto this ferry. There was no bike found afterwards either, was there?
No, after the ferry had docked in Calais, the ferry would have been cleaned and searched as a matter of routine, and no bike was found, no.
And what does it tell you that he also had those 2 valuable watches, money as well? What does it tell you about his intentions?
It suggests to me that when Simon made the choice to leave Kingston, he took with him some the 2 watches in order to really have some funds available. It's possible that he may have wanted to have those watches so that he could sell them at a later date.
OK, and it's really clear here that all of that, he had financial difficulties, which you've already talked about. That is in no way part of your investigation, is it?
Absolutely not at all. This is a missing persons investigation, nothing more.
OK, if he had told you about what was going on in the business, you could have helped him, couldn't you?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And you
without
have
a
done
doubt.
now, haven't you?
Well, we've sorted out the business as such. I mean, the business is no longer in existence, really, from Simon's point of view,
No,
is it?
no, it's completely cleared, and any outstanding debts are written off.
But, I mean, on reflection, it's money. I mean, nothing is insurmountable. We could have helped, if only he'd come to us.
What about, just tell us a little bit about his decision as well to go to France, because was that somewhere he wasn't very accustomed to going to France, was he?
No.
No.
I think it was the easiest and the cheapest way to get out of the country, really, and what his intentions or where he intended going once he landed is pure guesswork.
Absolutely.
Probably a bit more anonymity.
I mean, flying would have been expensive, and he'd have had to pack up the bike into the special carrier, which would have taken time and would cost him a lot of money.
So, John, what's your gut feeling about what's going on?
I think that Simon has left the country because he had financial problems.
So what we do know is that he took that ferry to France, that he arrived in Calais, and then the investigation had, of course, to move to Europe.
OK, we're here just for an update on the disappearance of Simon Hickson.
In April 2009, it seemed certain that Simon Hickson had crossed the Channel to Calais. The police search now extended across the water.
In order to try and find Simon, we have spoken to colleagues in France and Italy via Interpol. We've spoken to international triathlete clubs and international cycling clubs. We've also spoken to hotels and businesses abroad that may have had contact with Simon.
But after months of investigation, it became clear Simon had disappeared without a trace. There have been no reported sightings of Simon, but even though it's been 2 years, his parents Jean and Martin are determined to find out what happened to him.
It just seems such a long time ago now. But having said that, people do remember things.
Yeah.
Things do stand out in your mind sometimes, don't
he
they?
had a very distinctive bicycle here. He was in his cycling gear, wasn't he? So I think
well, we think he was, but we don't know that he was in his cycling gear.
Sure he was.
He had his cycling gear. I think the horrid thing is not knowing anything at all. I mean, if you knew something, it would help somehow. I mean, it puts other things in perspective. When you see, you know, programmes of children who've gone missing, there's no closure. It's just nothing.
Simon would have arrived in Calais at around 8 in the evening, so Jean and Martin's first stop is the Tourist Information Office, where he could have gone to find a hotel room.
We just wondered if we could possibly put some posters up here. This is our son, Simon, and we're hoping that he might have called in here because he would need somewhere to sleep, and we have no idea where he is.
On the window here and give others inside all the hotels that are here.
That would be wonderful.
Maybe we remember.
Yes.
Maybe we would
Probably the cheaper hotels.
Yes, well, I'm sure, yes, because I mean, I don't know. We don't even know how much money he came out with.
Before they leave, Jean and Martin drop off their posters at the one place Simon is most likely to have visited.
Our son is missing.
Our son is missing.
Dès qu'on a des renseignements, si on en a.
There's a huge network of cycling clubs in France that will now get Simon's poster.
I think it's helped us, despite being 2 years down the line, which is a long time really, when I think about it. We just want to hear. We just want to know that he's all right. That's the main thing, isn't it? We obviously miss him.
I hope he is in Italy. I hope he's in Italy, started